Hi everybody, this is Brother Eli at a summit and at other schools, other mystical schools at the moment. Namaste. I have been studying with Omna at the Sacred School of Omna. Omna is the Atlantean name for Natalie Glasson, who gives very good dictation. So this is a plug for Natalie's work, and I hope I'm not overreaching and sharing her information. She has said that we may repost her information as long as we credit her. And I do periodically repost her information on my website and also my Holy Orders page. I'm principally a Chela of Guru Ma Elizabeth Clare Prophet, and my other guru is Kuthumi. And Kuthumi is also present within the Sacred School of Omna, as a matter of fact. And Natalie receives very good information and transmits it in channeling format, and I highly recommend her channelings. They come in the form of capsules of wisdom, and they're similar to dictations, but she doesn't refer to them as dictations, to the best of my awareness. I don't believe that she claims that to lose consciousness during her channelings. I don't really I'm not really sure, and I don't know that it matters. But I wanted to share information with you because we at Summit, in a fashion similar to the Tibetan Buddhists, really guard our teachings as sacred, which means that they shouldn't be made profane. And by profane, I mean commonplace, everyday, mundane. And people who have who have experience within the inner temple teachings will understand what that means. But she was talking about Sanat Kumara and Vaiwamis. Now, Vaiwamis is mentioned online. Vaiwamis is not an ascended master at the Summit Lighthouse. And the Summit Lighthouse, I believe, states that it is the authority on I am activity and the ascended master pantheon, and that's great. And I think that it should be the authority, and I think that it should be viewed as a repository school for all of that information. I believe that, Holy Sutras and so on are incredibly valued and valuable. They should be valued, and they are valuable, and they are the treasure teachings. They're Buddha's treasure teachings, really. So we need to guard them closely. One of the teachings, I think, early on at Summit is that when you have a lot of exposure to New Age information, or a lot of exposure to Hinduism, other mystical paths, and so on, one tends to develop the understanding that it is okay for information to be non-codified. So in other words, it doesn't matter. In this scenario, it wouldn't matter if Elizabeth Clare Prophet said something, or if a Hindu guru said something, or if Omna said something. It doesn't really matter, because it's all potentially relevant, or it's all relevant to an extent, or the vibration has some degree of authenticity to it. And that is true and acceptable to an extent, except I feel that at Summit, my observation has been that Summit is stricter with regard to what it considers to be the treasure teachings. And I think that that's fine. And as a matter of fact, some people are going to be drawn to it to study at Summit for that reason. They want a more disciplined path, and Summit can provide that path. As a matter of fact, if you are a Chela very much dedicated to your organization, certainly you will not be disappointed in utilizing Summit for that. But there are other schools, and in my experience, Elizabeth Clare Prophet initiated me into an entire world of spiritual truth, and she will always be the overarching messenger and guru to me. But there are other schools, and it's important, I think, that when those schools are handling information in a credible manner, to give them credence or give them pay proper tribute to those schools, and to adhere to those schools when someone is receiving a lot of good information, for instance. And I think that Omna really does receive a lot of excellent material, and so we should pay attention. But she was talking about the planetary logos. So Venus is the planetary logos. Rather, Sanat Kumara at Summit is the planetary logos for Venus. And I won't even say at Summit anymore in this conversation, and often we'll just choose to leave that out and just presume that, because I'm saying it, that it is Summit information and truthful, or just truthful information, universal truth. Well, so planetary logos of Venus is Sanat Kumara. Vaiwamis, according to Omna, is a higher octave of Vaiwamis, or how did she put it? Past embodiment. Rather, Vaiwamis is a past embodiment of Sanat Kumara, or there's a correlation, a direct correlation between Vaiwamis and Sanat Kumara. With Sanat Kumara, I think, being the sort of the more recent avatar. I believe that's what she means by that. And so that's important information. But Omna also acknowledges that Gautama Buddha is Lord of the world, and we acknowledge that at Summit, and that's very important to me in my work and in my teaching when I look at other people. Maitreya gets a lot of attention, and for a while when I was on the internet, I posted this in another video. For a while, I was on the internet, and a lot of people were talking about Maitreya and getting excited about Maitreya. And as someone who, look at it from my perspective, if you're not as deeply embedded within New Thought spirituality as I, and in mysticism as I am, I think a lot of Summit people are. I look at the information all the time, and there's always someone out there saying that they have better information. And so it becomes sort of a kind of game, or a point of mimetic inquiry, or inter-spiritual dispute with regard to who has the right information and who doesn't. And I think that a sacred school, a valid sacred school, has a studied opinion and a historical opinion with regard to what constitutes accurate information and what constitutes passable information and what constitutes invalid information. So you'll see people making all sorts of claims about about New Thought information, but also about mystical information that has permeated I Am, New Thought, and so forth. For instance, Maitreya. Well, Maitreya for a while was getting all of this attention, and there's a reason for it, I suppose. But I wanted to stress, some people are trying to claim that Maitreya is the new planetary logos, and that is absolutely not true according to the Summit Lighthouse. That change has not been announced or endorsed yet. It doesn't mean that you can't change gears if you choose to do that as a Chila, and move that out of your vocal attention, or your realm of attention, and go sort of to another school and utilize that as an energy. I think that is potentially okay, but not to me from within Summit at all. And people stake claim to information when they don't necessarily have the authority to do so. And I don't say that to criticize people, and I don't think that it's valid to even try to discredit people who attempt to utilize changes in hierarchy or to apprehend changes in hierarchy. I think people have the right to inquire, and people have the right to learn and to delve you know, and so. But to say but whoever came up with that, I don't believe that is accurate information. It sounds a little bit to me like Orthodox Buddhism trying to, or sort of a string or a vibration from an off vibration from Orthodox Buddhism trying to influence the quote unquote true teaching. So if you want to go, in other words, if you go to Lord Himalaya, you go to the old man in the hill, or the old woman in the hill, or you find the one true guru, you want to know what their impression is, and that's for a reason. And I will talk to you about why it is that we need to adhere on another occasion. But and again, it's not to put a limit on free will at all, or your own free will choice. It serves adherence to the sutras and specific adherence to Vinaya and so forth. It serves a function, and it helps the seeker, the chila, the siddha, to actualize, and that's hugely important. But so not all of Omna's information aligns with Summit's at all. But if you use her information, use her channelings as to help you with your path as part of your prayer work, I think that you will find that it provides a valid alternative to Mother and Mark all of the time. Not that Mother and Mark, a great deal of Mother and Mark is not enormously useful. And as I said, it's not. But Omna, the vibration and the resonance that I receive from Omna's material is not that it is at all beyond full. It is resonant with the truth and consonant with the truth, and yet provides, I guess, sort of a alternative interpretation of many of the descriptions of the masters and so forth. But I think you'll be quite surprised at how much of her information resembles Summit information. Certainly, she has a discussion of the rays and so forth. And it's important. It's important to support the material so that developmentally it raises consciousness on the planet. But Sanat Kumara Vaiwamis, it was a question that Lipo had. Now Lipo was, for those who don't know, was a chela of Elizabeth Clare Prophet and lived at the ranch. When Elizabeth bought Royal Teton Retreat in the 80s, they first moved there. There were 500 people invited to live there, and Lipo was one of the first 500. So he was a ranch original, worked at the ranch, and then eventually ended up leaving the ranch. His time there ended, and then Mother instructed him to go out and teach in the world, which was very difficult for him to do under the circumstances, unfortunately. But has a lot of incredible insight and bears a significant part of the mantle. And Lipo states in this video, rather, at one point in the, and I studied the information, and let me preface it by saying, what was shocking to me about the Lipo material is that I began to understand what it really means, how prophecy truly works, and about how inner temple teachings work. When I received esoteric information independently of Lipo, that it really isn't possible that two people would develop conclusions or mental formatives on those topics as independently and as in proximity to each other in space-time as Lipo and I did. So Lipo had made recordings years before I started making my recordings. And I realized as I was going through information and pulling through a lot of material that when people would ask, and when there was discussion at Summit with regard to valid information versus false information, true teachings versus false teachings, and sort of the warning that you should adhere to Elizabeth Clare Prophet and not just listen to whatever book you pick up at Barnes & Noble by whatever self-proclaimed guru. Well, I realized, right, because I could feel the vibration, I could feel the truth, and my chakras sort of aligning with the unfoldment and the awareness that certain of this material was truthful and quote-unquote accurate, and other parts of the material were not part of what I consider to be the true treasure teachings. So there's, I guess, sort of as evidence of telepathic communication or group awareness, but psychic group awareness, interconnected group awareness, which is really a, God endorsed understanding, shared electronic understanding, if you want to call it that. I was going through information, and I remember thinking to myself, first of all, Lipo, when he made his videos, well, he released a very limited number of videos. There aren't, hundreds and hundreds of Lipo videos, or thousands of Lipo videos out there. There's a finite number of videos on very specific topics, and I could point as a church, as someone in holy orders, I can point to parts of the conversation or parts of his material that I know are resonant because they sound exactly like the Summit Lighthouse, and I can hear and feel the will and the intent of the Summit Lighthouse within it. So I know that it's right. And at one point, he has people around him, a small group of people, probably 6 or 7. I think maybe probably 6 or 7 people or 8 people. There are a couple different videos that he made. One is sitting at the table with 2 women who were obviously connected to Summit Lighthouse somehow. And this is in Arizona. The other is when he's sitting in his living room in the same building. And I think that there are 6 or 7 or 8 Summit Lighthouse or Summit Lighthouse types there, or people who are just showing up to hear the words of this supposedly holy man. And one of the things that he said, what he released information on very esoteric, I really want to stress this, esoteric points of I am theology that I had come across only days before and have never seen discussed anywhere else. So in other words, I had generated these very specific insights with regard to several topics. And I knew that it was divine revelation and progressive revelation when I received the material, that information. Because I was testing the validity of these bits of these sutras and these bits of holy information. And by esoteric, I mean that we all know at the Summit Lighthouse certain things about the Chohans. We know the Chohans, we know the archangels. It's written how the Elohim align with the chakras. It's written with regard to who they are. Virginia and Cyclopeia are the Elohim, correct, of the third eye. Right, we all agree that that's the case. We all agree that Lord Lanto rules the top chakra, the crown chakra. We all agree, even Hindus and Buddhists and so forth agree that it's a 972-petaled lotus at the crown chakra. This is not new information. It's shared information. It's known. It's esoteric to a point. But if you're within the community, it's known that these are truths. Well, or we understand that there's an Archangel Michael. We understand, um, let's see, or Hindus will understand that their chakra system is slightly different. Like if you talk to, if you talk to Orthodox Hindus, not that there's really such a thing as Hinduism. Hinduism is really a conglomeration of religions. But their understanding of the chakral systems is different. But in other words, there's this very specific um, codification. And I had been thinking about very esoteric parts of what I had encountered and wondered, and I could go through and see, okay, this particular location is trying to say that these people are ascended masters, and that doesn't sound right to me when I look at it. Or I will look at information from a spin-off organization of Summit, and maybe parts of it don't look fully resonant, although you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at how it really, I think if you reach a certain level of awareness within your Summit understanding, how much the other schools appear to be spin-off schools still validly in resonance or in working in consonance with the Summit Lighthouse. Not that they are saying that they are under ranch authority, but that the information appears to have sort of reached it seems to be unfolding in orbit around a lot of everything else that is part of the Summit derived synastry, I suppose, is the word. So